Hi-ho, Tudor-minded people. It's Philadelphia Carey for Tudor Time Machine. Today's word of the week is bescumber. When my favorite asks to embrace me, I say, "First you must wash, my love, lest you bescumber me."
Bescumber? How now, Tudor files? What think you? If you're new here, I'm Gage.
I'm Jessica, and this is Tudor Word of the Week with Tudor Time Machine.
And the word this week is bescumber. Bescumber.
Which means to get dirty.
Or some sources give a more particular definition, which is to discharge odor or dung upon.
Yuck.
Indeed, I do not want to be dung upon.
The Tudor and Stuart playwright Ben Jonson, in his satire, The Staple of the News, has one character ask another, "Where did you lift your leg up last? 'Gainst what? Did Block bescumber statute's white suit with the parchment lace there? All will out."
Oh dear.
I like "where did you lift your leg up last?" That sounds like discharging odor or dung upon.
The Staple of News was written in 1626, and it's a satire on the newspaper and news agency business, which was a new phenomenon. The first semi-regular news serials in English were called Corantos, and they started circulating in England in 1620.
In the early days, the Corantos were printed in the Netherlands, essentially to report on the events of what would become known to us as the 30 Years' War.
The war was very basically a religious conflict which stretched all across Europe, with one side supporting the Catholic rulers and the other side supporting Protestant rulers.
It raged for decades, from about 1618 to the Peace of Westphalia in 1648. And that's not to say that in 1648, religious strife ended in Europe, because it didn't. That was when they all sat down and tried to figure it out.
Europe was devastated by the war, not just by 8 million military casualties, but by famine, ruined crops, disease.
People in England wanted to keep up with events, and the publication of English translations of foreign news pamphlets became incredibly popular.
So in 1622, Nathaniel Butter, a London stationer, began printing news serials in English.
Nathaniel Butter is a great name.
I know. I guess he was a smooth gentleman.
I don't know if he was as smooth as butter, but he was savvy. And he was actually, interestingly, the first printer of Shakespeare's King Lear in 1607.
And he saw a massive opportunity in bringing news of political events to people with these English newspapers.
And some scholars believe Jonson had a political motive for this satire, The Staple of the News, because the newspapers concentrated on war news from Europe. And that, of course, sort of fed support for England's involvement on the Protestant side of the war.
I read that Jonson probably supported King James' reluctance to formally enter the war.
I think he probably did. And James really held out about not getting involved in this skirmish that was all over Europe. And England didn't enter the war formally, but of course there was support for English soldiers going to fight for the Protestant cause. There was sort of some backdoor support.
Jonson had been a soldier himself in Flanders in 1580 fighting the Spanish, so he knew about the horror of battle.
Jonson uses our Tudor word of the week in a satire about the news industry, which has continued to bescumber famous people ever since.
Bescumbered on page 6.
Exactly. So this week, try not to get bescumbered.
And join us next week when Philadelphia Carey surprises us with a new word.
I'm very surprising. Join us.